For anyone who loves dragons, and particularly for Year 3 GR at Windmill Primary School, here's my dragon tutorial. On your A3 sheet of paper, do the main parts of your dragon: head, neck, body, tail. Draw 2 curved lines for the eye and the slit for the pupil. Then come down to do the nose and snout. Include lumps and bumps and 2 fine horns. Add the details for the snout, the mouth, chin, and give him a beard. Now the curved lines for the neck. Make sure you get this right. The neck is thinner at the head and fatter or wider towards the body. Then you can do your curved spiky lines for the thorns or horns or spikes along his back. Now the tricky bit, showing the lines of the dragon's underbelly. This is the armour-plated area under his neck. We're going to draw the curved lines along here. Make sure they're curved to show the shape. With a light touch, you're going to plot the rest of the dragon. Here his wings, curving up and back, and then the wing behind, and the little claws, the hooks on each wing. Now we're going to continue the back that comes behind his wing. Now the great lion-like paws and claws. Lots of curved lines to get this shape right. Remember, this particular paw is behind the body, peeping out. Again, curve those lines until you're happy with the shape. And little curved lines for the claws on the end. Now a bit of the tummy. And the back leg, much larger, coming over the body. Curved lines, tufts of hair on the back of the leg. Claws on the back leg here, and then the armour plating under the tail. Curve those lines again. Now the weapon at the end of the dragon's tail. You could do this idea or be creative with yours. Make sure your dragon is wide enough, and once you're happy with it, do the spikes along his back. Make sure they disappear behind the wing, and then follow those spikes down along part of the tail. Now go over your wing and correct the shape and make sure you're happy with it. Curve the wing slightly where it attaches to the body. You've got the spike at the top, and then the wing that's hiding behind. Now the rest of the wing, curve it across, and then in and out, in and out. Now just add the details, the nostril here, the teeth along the mouth, as sharp or as long as you like. Also some small scales around the eyes. Give them some detail. You can have fun here and fill the whole face up with scales. And now the horn. Curved lines on the horn to give it some shape. Now some tips and tricks on how to shade your dragon with colour pencils. This is the shading under the neck. To make these look like actual plates of armour, draw around each plate, making them look like they layer on top of each other. Now for the details of the wing. Here's the hook with 2 shades, a dark black and a dark grey. Now with the black, describe the shapes of the areas of the wing. Once you've done all the main veins of the wing, add in any little details like I am here at the top and shadows. Then you want to fill in between the veins with a shape. You can see I'm using here a curved line, repeated. Now the detail on the wing. You could just shade the wing all one colour, or you could have much more detail. Here I'm using a very light grey on each of those curved lines. On top of that, I'm using a darker grey, on top of that light grey. Finally, a black. It gives a sort of stripy colour. Finally, I blend that with a light grey. Now the armour plating under the neck. How to shade it and make it look more 3D. First, you're shading with a black at the top of that plate of armour, followed by a darker grey. You could put a bit of blue or green. And then lastly, the light grey. And at the very edge, at the tip of the plate, you might even want to leave it white, like the light is shining off it. Try and blend your shading as you can. This bit requires patience. The scales. Sharp spikes all over the dragon's body. Certain parts need to be small, like on the neck. And you can actually change their direction so they follow how the dragon's neck curves. Notice I'm turning the dragon around to get the right direction that I want. Here is a close-up of how you could add some detail to the ends of those scales. Here I'm using a little bit of blue, but you could use orange or red, maybe even green. Just adding here and there little tips of colour. Shading in the frill, first in between each of the spikes of the frill in black. Once those are done, you'll need a dark grey for the lighter areas. If you do want to fill the face with scales, be careful. Make each scale different to the other. It makes the dragon's face more unique. Scales near the nose need to be smaller. Scales by the jaw can be a bit bigger. Most importantly, the eye of the dragon. Oranges, mossy greens, reds, yellows, and finally blacks around the very outside. Leave a bit of white in the slit to make it look alive. Now the circles of scales and spikes around the chin area. Give them a little bit of that blue or green or main colour of your dragon and shade them in. Larger scales, shade them individually, each one. The armour plating on the legs. First, go around the outside of the particular plate you're doing with black and bring the black shading in, then dark grey, and finally light grey, ending in white at the very shiniest bit of the scale. Once you've drawn the large and small scales over your dragon's body, you'll need to shade them in. The large scales shade in individually. Some of them can be left with bits of white, like the shine on the scale. Where the scales are smaller, you can shade just over them. I hope this tutorial has given you some good ideas for your own dragon artwork.